years ago, I started this project of doing 100 horror films that every horror fanatic should watch at least once. And I never finished it, so I figured I would try to do it again. Except this time I'm going to separate it into 10 segments. The first segment being kid-friendly horror as an intro to horror. I thought that would be perfect. So first up I have Monster House, which is an animated film. It was in theaters and it's advertised for a very young audience. The thing about this movie is it's genuinely creepy. It is about this house that comes to life and it eats possessions and people, and especially kids. Anyone that messes with the lawn or the house in any sort of way gets eaten. And there's these 3 neighborhood kids that are learning of this and try to stop it and save the day. It is a really good movie. It is genuinely creepy, but it's a good little slow awakening, I suppose, into the genre. Next up is also going to be Casper. This is a movie that everyone knows. It has Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci, and it gave the world Devon Sawa. You know, every girl's huge crush in the 90s. Can I keep you? I mean, come on now. It obviously follows Casper, and I think it's supposed to be his cousins or something. And then Christina Ricci and Bill Pullman come into the house and they're investigating and supposed to get rid of the ghost. And it follows that, and it's just a very family-oriented, fun, spooky, good time. Along in the same vein would definitely be Hocus Pocus, which is a Disney movie that mostly everyone knows, and it follows the adventures of the Sanderson sisters. And they're on a quest for, you know, to be forever young and youthful, and so they go around trying to eat the souls of little children. I mean, all kids are into that. It's a fantastic movie. I'm sure you've seen it. Along with that would come Return to Oz. This is probably for a little bit older crowd of kids. I would say about 12 and up. This was another one that's marketed to very young kids, which is really strange if you've seen the movie. It is basically a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, but it gets really dark and twisted and creepy, and they have these things called wheelers, which are really scary. And there's like dead bodies and stuff, and it's an adventure. I will say it that way. I don't think that this is a good movie for really young kids. Just wait till they're a little bit older and go for it. Next up, I have a movie from the 80s. It's totally cheesy. It's just fun. It is The Gate. This has a young Stephen Dorff in it. And him and another kid accidentally conjure up demons in the backyard. And a bunch of these little cheesy looking little things are coming out of the yard, and they're just wreaking havoc and, you know, being demons. It did spawn a sequel, but I've never seen the sequel, so I'm unsure of that. But this is a very fun movie. I would definitely compare it more to like Troll 2. It's that kind of nonsense, but it's a fun movie, and it's definitely a kid's movie all the way. Along that would go with, I think Gremlins would pair very well with that. You know, it has the little cute little thing, and you're not supposed to feed it after midnight or get it wet. And of course, they do all the things that you're not supposed to do. And then they come to this basically army of the bad ones that look all evil and wreak havoc on the town and terrorize everybody. And it's just a fun, silly time. I'm sure you know it. And another one is The Monster Squad. I personally do not like this movie. I'm sorry. But it does introduce a younger audience to the famous classic monsters. I believe it's like Wolfman, Dracula, and stuff like that. I've only seen it like once, and I'm not a monster person. It does have that famous, infamous little line from the little girl near the end. I'm sure you know it if you've seen the movie. Monster Squad. The next two, I kind of cheated a little bit. It is going to be Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Goosebumps started out with the books, then became a TV show, and then they had a series of movies. Even to this day, they still do. The movies that I'm gonna reference are the Horrorland movies. You know, where the family gets in their little car and they go to, I think it's called Horrorland, and they have like all these little monsters working and they're doing little tricks. And it had that fun little scene where they go into this little talk show and they're crazy. It is a fantastic introduction to the genre. It's one of the best. I love those cheesy movies. If you watch them when you're older, they're so bad. But if you watch them as a kid, they're a lot of fun, and sometimes they can be a little creepy. Along with that, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Which I actually preferred over Goosebumps. And if you rewatch some of those episodes, they are just as creepy today. Especially if you watch the one, I think it's the 13th Floor, and the one where the little girl's friend goes missing and she eventually finds her and she's like this living doll in a dollhouse in an attic somewhere. And it's really, really creepy. Still stands test time, and it has an all-star cast throughout the entire series. That's where I got to meet Alicia Cuthbert, who is phenomenal. And lastly, I have another cheesy little movie. It's from, I can't remember if it's from like the late 80s or the early 90s, but it's The Burbs. This movie had Tom Hanks, and it has a synopsis that is very similar to Fright Night. Sorry, I froze for a second. Basically, there are these new people in the neighborhood, and they're weird, and people are talking about them, and they eventually start, you know, watching them and stalking them and seeing what's going on, and we slowly learn who these people really are, and it's silly and it's fun. The Burbs.